All right, we've got a mindfulness exercise coming in hot because this is something that has been a recurring pattern in the lives of people I love, in the lives of my clients, and yes, my life as well, because it's part of the human condition and it's aversion. And so, what I challenge you to do in this mindfulness exercise is to become aware of aversion. And that's any kind of negative feelings towards something, someone, an experience. You get it. They might be very mild feelings where it's just the hint of irritation, or it can be really strong feelings like anger really taking over, washing over you, even hatred washing over you. And when we're practicing noticing aversion in this way, all we have to do is become aware of what happened just before that aversion arose. And then let's come back to the body. What did you see? What did you hear? Was it something you felt through your sense of touch? Is it something you tasted? A pungent smell. I shouldn't say pungent. Sometimes pungent smells are great, like garlic. But maybe it's an unpleasant smell or even a thought. And when do you notice aversion first coming up in your day? When's the first time in your day that you notice this dislike? That's ultimately the challenge. Now, if I can offer you a tip for this, you might just want to post, like on a post it note, write really simply, notice, dislike, and then post it in places where you know that you get triggered. Maybe it's on the mirror, maybe it's on the television or by the remote, something like that. In your car, if traffic is a big deal for you. It could even be more like nonverbal if you'd like, like put a little sad face. Whatever is going to help you to remember to practice. Using post it notes can be a helpful cue at first. Now, if you notice that you are ignoring the post it notes, then let's talk. This is something that I can coach you through in private sessions. But when we do this exercise, we will find that aversion is probably more common than we ever realized. Mentally, emotionally, experiencing this dislike may happen really early in the day. It may happen a little bit later in the day once you get to work. We might be triggered by events on the morning news or traffic on the way to work or some kind of interaction between you and a family member, a coworker, a client, whatever your day-to-day looks like. I know that I've experienced aversion all kinds of different ways, particularly in my work as a teacher when I worked so hard to craft these lessons and what I thought were very engaging assignments, and then only a couple of kids in the class took advantage of it. Like that really triggered dislike within me, as you can probably imagine that it would. Now, it might be kind of alarming to discover how pervasive aversion is every single day in our lives. I know that was the case for me because I always kind of considered myself to be a pretty happy person. It is, however, very important to become aware that feelings of dislike are a part of life. It's part of our daily experience. But aversion is actually one of three afflictive mind states described in the Buddhist tradition. There's greed or clinging, aversion or pushing away, and delusion or ignoring. And they're called afflictive states because they impact us in similar ways that a virus afflicts us. It causes distress and pain, not only in ourselves, but then to those around us. Because if I think back to my teaching situation, I know the students picked up on my frustration, and then that gets in the way of the next day's lesson and my ability to problem solve and their ability to receive the um, next step of the learning process. It's kind of like this hidden source of anger and aggression. And it arises from this idea that if we could just manage to get rid of this problem or this person, then we could be happy. And that's all it would take. What we humans wish to get rid of in order to become happy could be super trivial too. Like it could be mosquitoes. How much better does it seem like life would be without mosquitoes? And if that sounds absurd to you, that's probably because it kind of is, right? If we think about our need to control, it is a little absurd. It's absurd for at least two reasons. First of all, if we had the power to make everything perfect in our own lives the way we want them to be, then that perfection is only perfect in our eyes, right? What's perfect for me may not be at all perfect for you. Secondly, forcing perfection, period, on the world, on our families, on our careers, on insert whatever situation here, is bound to fail. We're setting ourselves up for failure. And that failure doesn't come from us needing to work harder or be different. That failure comes from the truth of impermanence. Nothing in this world lasts forever. So even if we were, because I do this too, even if we were able to control the situation and have everything turn out perfectly for us, it would be different in the next moment. And such is life, right? So, the next time that you are practicing mindfulness and you, of course, experience this aversion, this dislike, this perception of imperfection that is part of life, just notice it. What makes the mind go to this sour state and then come back to the body, anchoring into our senses? And allowing ourselves that space to feel that way. It's okay to feel this dislike. And once you have been with yourself in that moment, however brief it may be, then transition to appreciating things as they are. Let's take an opportunity to resource pleasure. This is something one of my mentors, Veronica Rotman, has been so great at instilling upon me, which has in turn done a 180 in my clients' lives. Because when we can resource pleasure, we have the capacity to be with these moments of dislike and aversion more fully and experiencing them, and then eventually experiencing the passing of that dislike. And this, of course, is why I love mindfulness so much. It helps us to become at ease no matter what conditions exist and no matter how they may change. It asks us to see the perfection in this moment, no matter what this moment brings to us. And it asks us to be aware, in this case, of aversion and meet it with appreciation and loving kindness so that we don't get so tangled up in the pushing away and end up missing the lesson and end up missing the beauty in this moment. All right, now get out there and practice noticing aversion. And if you would like more support and accountability, I'll leave my contact information below so we can talk about how we can design a healthier lifestyle on your terms. Because maybe aversion isn't something that you are working on, maybe it's something that you have already mastered. Let's connect and talk about your next steps.